What is great though is Booker T versus Chris Benoit on Nitro, and there's going to be some of you out there who knows what this match leads to. The TV title's on the line. Benoit's first to hit the mat after a shoulder block, though a hard chop sends Booker into the corner. Booker gets beaten up pretty badly, but he manages to pull off a power slam that keeps Chris at bay. The two lock up again. They go through a test of strength before Booker floors Chris again with a hook kick. Booker then performs a clothesline, and when Benoit gets back up, the two grapple each other for a bit before deciding to break it off and start again from scratch. Chris performs a German suplex and a back elbow before putting Booker down for a chin lock. The two get up and Booker takes another hard chop, but Booker then comes back with an insane flapjack where Benoit got some serious airtime, and Booker follows this up with a Harlem sidekick. Booker's feeling it. He goes to the top rope for the hangover or maybe a missile dropkick, but Benoit wakes up and the champ takes a superplex. When the two get up, Benoit performs his rolling German suplexes, but he can't capitalize afterwards. Booker comes back with a spine buster, but he smashes his little King Booker on the top rope when trying a Harlem sidekick. A Northern Light suplex doesn't win the match for Benoit. The two get to their feet and they start throwing chops and punches, and then the bell rings. The time limit has expired and there is some confusion in the arena, but when it's announced that the match is a draw, the crowd start booing. This match was good and it was just becoming great, but Booker T retains and Chris Benoit doesn't look happy about it. Don't worry though guys, this one happens again quite a few times and it leads to one of the best things WCW ever did with their television title. Booker T and Chris Benoit had a great time limit draw last week, and I said I didn't want to cover matches in depth that we have already looked over, so I'm gonna breeze over this one, but trust me guys, we get to see more Booker vs Benoit matches, including pay-per-view bouts. A good intense lockup started this one off, and Booker had to spin on the mat to get away from Benoit. This pin attempt didn't look too hot as you can see, and just as Benoit started laying the chops in, Tony Schiavone announces a Kurt Hennig vs British Bulldog match for Spring Stampede. Booker pulls off a spine buster, and I'm gonna call this out because he's been doing this for months now. Tony Schiavone calls this a sidewalk slam every time Booker pulls it off, and I get moves wrong all the time, but I'm not getting paid by Turner every week to fuck up, so Tony, get it together man. Benoit pulls off a German suplex and a snap suplex as the crowd continue to react really well to everything these two do in the ring. Booker tries to come back with a double axe handle, but he runs right into a drop toe hold. Booker gets stretched out a little on the mat, he takes a back suplex, and I just enjoy how much these guys enjoy beating the hell out of each other. Benoit pulls off his rolling German suplexes, but he only manages two before Booker breaks free. The two then collide into each other with a ton of velocity. Booker goes upstairs to end it, but Benoit tries and fails to stop Booker from jumping from the top rope. Booker misses his aerial attack though, Benoit applies a crossface, and Booker T makes it to the ropes. Just like last week, the two get to their feet and the bell rings. The time limit has expired. Patrick tries to break it up and he takes a Kurt Hennig bump even though he was just gently pushed away. I mean, look at that. But eventually he does stop the two men from fighting, and again Benoit isn't happy about the outcome. Another good match here, and there has to be a way for these two to settle this. Removing the time limit would make sense, I know, but WCW come up with something even better to their credit. The next match is one I've been looking forward to watching again. It's Chris Benoit vs Booker T. These two have had a few time limit draws on Nitro, and Benoit feels like he should be the TV champion, but Booker is played by WCW rules, and no matter what Benoit says, Booker's title defenses have all been above board. Tonight though, the TV title limit has been removed. There has to be a winner. We get another tense stare down between the competitors, followed by a good strong lockup that has to get forcefully broken up by the referee. Booker then delivers a stiff shoulder block, and Benoit has to roll out of the ring afterwards to get his wits about him. Booker lets Benoit get back inside the ropes. The challenger ducks a spinning back kick and the champion goes down after a sweep. Chris then drills Booker's leg into the canvas, but he tries this one too many times and Benoit ends up taking that back kick. Again, Chris goes to the outside to rethink his strategy and Booker invites him to get back in. The two go back at it. A few hip toss counters leads to Benoit taking a clothesline, and Booker brings it down to the mat while focusing on the arm. Benoit tries to fight back and he ends up taking a hook kick. Booker focuses again on the arm forearm, but this time Benoit brings Booker to the corner and Chris lays the boots in. Still, Chris can't get started here. He gets a boot up in the opposite corner, but he pays for it by taking a backbreaker. He wakes up a little though, and he finally starts doing some things that are substantial when he performs a front suplex and Booker gets dropped on the top rope. Chris then knocks Booker off the apron, and now Benoit's gonna go fully in control. Benoit performs a snap suplex when it gets back in the ring. He drives his knee into Booker's back while giving that chin a good old seeing to. He counters a Booker T double axe handle with a drop toe hold. He then performs a back suplex, and there it is, the diving headbutt. Benoit wastes way too much time before making the cover, and Booker ends up getting a foot on the ropes. The extended recovery time allows Booker to counter a suplex with a suplex of his own, but Benoit makes Booker pay with a hard back elbow. As Chris hits a snap suplex, Tony Schiavone says we have passed the usual 10-minute TV title mark. Booker takes a backbreaker, and Chris follows this up with his rolling German suplexes. Booker T's getting absolutely destroyed at this point, and the fans are cheering for Chris. The onslaught continues with an insane back suplex from the top rope. If you watch that again in slow motion, you can see both guys smacking the back of their heads on the canvas, and indeed, Benoit sells it just as much as Booker T. Benoit crawls to Booker to make the cover, but Booker kicks out. They've got the crowd in the palm of their hands here as Booker gets a burst of adrenaline, and he performs a spine buster. You can hear the contact when Booker performs his jumping forearm, and this gets followed up with a flopjack and a spinneroonie. The crowd are absolutely pumped up at this point. Booker goes for the axe kick, but Benoit pulls the referee in, and Mickey J takes all the impact. Booker checks on the ref, Benoit catches him with a crossface, the champion taps out, but there's no referee to call it. Benoit goes to wake the referee up, and Booker T jumps over Mickey J to perform a Harlem sidekick. The referee's able to make the count, and Booker T wins a fantastic match at Spring Stampede. A replay shows us that Benoit definitely pulled the referee in for that X kick, so Chris screwed himself over in this one, but there's enough here to continue the rivalry, and I'm absolutely all for it. These two worked extremely well with each other, and they're yet to have a bad match on TV together. Too Cold and Terry Funk versus Kai and Tai on Raw, Chris Benoit versus Booker T on Nitro. So the winner of this Booker versus Benoit match faces Finlay at Slamboree. Either man's a good choice really. We'll do this one quickly seeing as we have a lot more Benoit versus Booker matches to get through in the future. This one was very back and forth with the advantage switching around 5 or 6 times. Booker delivered a hard press slam that looked great before the match went to the outside, but back in the ring Benoit answered with a German suplex. Benoit was unable to stay in the driver's seat after a power slam followed by a Booker T back elbow, but things turned around for Chris when Booker missed a Harlem sidekick. Chris was able to hit his diving headbutt, but still Booker T kicked out. The former TV champ lands his axe kick and Booker then lands a flopjack, but Chris decided to pull in Mark Curtis when Booker went for another Harlem sidekick. This caused Booker to take his eyes off his opponent for just a moment, and it gave Chris enough time to trap the arm and apply the crossface. Chris Benoit wins on Nitro, and Chris Benoit faces Fit Finlay at Slamboree. Triple H faces The Rock next on Raw. On Nitro, the Best of 7 series begins between Chris Benoit and Booker T. On WCW Thunder, Booker T was announced as the #1 contender for the TV title, but Chris Benoit wasn't prepared to accept that decision. Chris attacked Booker and he left him on the rampway, and then Stevie Ray showed up and he told his brother he can't let Chris get away with disrespecting him like that. So both men agreed to a Best of 7 series with the winner facing Fit Finlay at the Great American Bash. I'll let you guys know what happens in the other matches that aren't featured on Nitro, but again, I have to point out, if you ever want to watch the whole Best of 7 series, you have to watch the matches beforehand too. You guys already know this because you've been watching Reliving the War, but Booker and Benoit have been having some absolute show stealers up until this point, so remember to go back and watch all their matches before beginning the TV title series. Booker forces Benoit out of the ring after a backdrop and a running forearm, and when the match resumes, a Chris Benoit German suplex gets countered too. Benoit again goes to the outside following a clothesline as Booker dominates the early portion of the match. Back in the ring, Booker counters a crippler crossface with a hook kick, but Benoit finally gets into it after performing a front suplex onto the top rope. Booker then takes a back elbow followed by a snap suplex, and Chris then slows it down with a sleeper on the mat. The two get to their feet and Benoit performs a hook clothesline. We then see a chin lock from Chris before Booker gets messed up with a few hard chops, and oh dear, there's chin lock number 2. Booker breaks out by ramming Benoit into the corner, but Chris replies with a backbreaker before signaling for the headbutt. Chris goes upstairs, he misses his signature move, so Booker's now back in the match and he's got a chance. Fit Finlay watches on from the entranceway as Booker T performs a
sidewalk slam.
Booker then misses a Harlem sidekick and Benoit tries a German suplex. The suplex gets countered and Booker performs the axe kick, so Booker thinks it's time to end it and he goes to the top rope. Booker misses the Harlem hangover though, and that's going to be the end of the match. Benoit counters a clothesline, the arm gets trapped, Chris applies the crippler crossface and Booker taps out. Benoit is 1-up in the best of 7 series. The next match happens on Thunder later in the week. So, let me get you caught up on the best of 7 series. On WCW Thunder, Benoit and Booker had one of the best matches of the series. Booker looked good in the early moments of the match, but he was forced to play defense for most of the remainder. Chris even pulled off 2 damaging chin locks during the bout that really should have ended it, but he went for the victory with a diving headbutt. Chris landed his finisher, but he took too long to cover Booker. At the end of the bout, Chris got caught with a Harlem sidekick and Booker was able to finish the job with his missile dropkick, so the scores were 1 apiece. On WCW Saturday Night, match 3 took place in the main event. This one was a little shorter, but again it was mostly Benoit in control. Booker tried to catch Benoit again with a sidekick, but he missed, but Benoit also missed his diving headbutt. Still though, Benoit picked up the win when Booker countered the crossface but still found himself taking a German suplex. It was a good finish, but I think you'd enjoy the Thunder match a little more. Going into Nitro then, Chris Benoit leads with 2 points to 1, and Booker starts the match off with a body slam that made our guy here get up and dance. Finlay comes out again to watch the match as Booker hits a back elbow followed by a big power slam. It gets brought to the mat for a moment with an armbar from Booker T, and then the former TV champ hits a top rope forearm that leads to Benoit rolling out of the ring. Chris gets back inside the ropes before his opponent, and this gives him a chance to kick a hole in Booker's chest. He then delivers some seriously hard chops, so naturally it's chinlock time. Gotta tame this guy somehow. Booker lands a clothesline, we then see the running forearm. There's chinlock number 2 right there, and Benoit replies to all this with a German suplex, the same move he won match number 3 with. This time though, Benoit hits hard too and he was unable to bridge after the move. Booker counters a backdrop attempt and we see the axe kick. He pulls off an awesome back suplex. Booker then sets Benoit up for a normal suplex, but Benoit counters it with an arm trap. Look at how Booker takes the bump here, it's absolutely brilliant. Benoit applies the crossface, Booker gives it up, so Benoit goes up 3-1 in this series. Booker really needs to get his act together if he wants to win this thing. Brilliant stuff as always though. Over on Nitro, we've got match number 6 of the best of 7 series, and Benoit leads 3 matches to 2. Booker T defeated Chris on Thunder this past week with a missile dropkick, so there's a chance this series might not get resolved before the Great American Bash. If Benoit can't beat Booker tonight, then the final match is going to happen at the pay-per-view, meaning the winner has to wrestle twice at the Bash because they'll also get their title shot that evening. Both men know each other so well by this point, meaning Benoit can duck out of a hook kick attempt from Booker while Booker sees a back elbow coming and he counters with a big slam. Booker ends up hitting that hook kick though when he prematurely breaks a test of strength, and he has to run at Benoit early to perform his back elbow. Even Mike Tenay picks up on the fact that both guys have to alter their setups a little to land moves and strike successfully. Benoit dodges the running forearm by grabbing onto the ropes, and a knee to the midsection sends Booker to the mat. The former TV champ then gets knocked out of the ring and Benoit stays in control with a snap suplex when the match resumes. Booker then takes a backbreaker as the crowd begin chanting "Benoit sucks." Chris lands a hook clothesline and the crippler thinks he's done enough to win the match. He signals for the headbutt, he goes up to the top rope, and there it is. Benoit had the perfect chance to win the series, but the headbutt stuns him too, and Booker has one last chance to keep the series going until the Great American Bash. Stevie Ray then shows up, he appeared in the previous match too, and Benoit gets seriously vicious. He throws Booker to the mat and he lays in a ton of kicks. Stevie pulls his brother out of the ring and he gives him a pep talk. Stevie tells Booker he needs to fight back, but Benoit isn't going to let Stevie coach his brother. Chris throws Booker back inside the ring. He lands a German suplex, but Booker somehow kicks out at 2. Booker then wakes up and he hits a spinning heel kick on Benoit. We then see there's
his sidewalk slam.
Benoit then gets flopjacked in the middle of the ring, but Chris stops Booker's momentum by throwing him into the middle turnbuckles. Chris then lays the boots in again. He throws Chris to the corner. Booker jumps over Chris for a surprise roll-up, and Booker T defeats Chris Benoit in match 6 of 7. Chris attacks Booker after the bout, and Stevie Ray has to jump in to stop Benoit. And this result means that both guys have now won 3 matches. The decider happens this week at the pay-per-view, and the winner must face Fit Finlay later in the show. Now, keep in mind that the deciding match ended up getting moved to Thunder before the pay-per-view, but that one ends in a no contest, so there's actually 2 match 7s that take place. I'll keep you updated on all this when I cover the Great American Bash later in the week. On Nitro, it was announced that the TV title Best of 7 series would end at the Great American Bash. 2 matches would take place, Booker T versus Chris Benoit in the series final, and the winner of that match would face Fit Finlay for the TV title later in the show. Match 7 got moved to Thunder instead, but in the Thunder match, Bret Hart got involved and he hit Booker T with a steel chair. Why did Bret do this, you may ask? Well, being NW Hollywood's main recruiter, Bret was trying to get Benoit to join the Black and White. Chris Benoit wouldn't accept a cheap victory, so he told the referee what happened and Booker T won the Best of 7 series. However, later in the evening, Booker T announced that he didn't want to accept the victory that way, so JJ Dillon reverted back to the original plan and Match 7 had been rebooked for the Great American Bash. Whoever wins this one is the true winner of the Best of 7 series, and the winner gets his shot at the belt a little later on. The TV title series has been excellent, but all good things must come to an end. Neither man takes control at the opening bell, with both competitors performing takedowns. Booker takes a timeout following a drop toe hold, but back in the ring he brings it down with an armbar. Booker then breaks a hammerlock by elbowing Benoit in the face. He then stays in control with a body slam, and he gets a boot up when Benoit launches him in the corner. But then Chris performs a dragon screw. Keep in mind, Booker's right knee had been causing him some problems. Benoit hits Booker hard with a few chops, and he follows this up with a back elbow and a back suplex. The crippler then applies the best move of the whole pay-per-view, a chin lock, and when the two get to their feet, Booker takes another hard chop. Even our main man, Mark Curtis, felt that one. Booker takes a snap suplex and the crowd pops when he counters a back suplex with a crossbody, but Benoit stays on Booker and we see chin lock number 2. Risky business. Benoit takes a front suplex on the top rope and a forearm shot knocks him out of the ring. Benoit seems happy to take a count-out victory, but Booker makes it back in and the TV champ takes a hook clothesline. Chris Benoit locks in chin lock number 3, so that's a... Chris Benoit chin lock. It's been a while since we have done that, eh? Booker gets his arm stretched out while Benoit drives his head into Booker's back, but Booker gets up and he puts Benoit on the mat with a power slam. I talked about how well Booker and Benoit knew each other by this point in the series over on Reliving the War, and that comes into play when Benoit dodges a top rope forearm from Booker. This was a move he pulled out in match 6, and it's good how, in every match, the competitors remembered each other's high spots and how to avoid them. Case in point, Booker's able to get to the ropes really fast after Benoit drops the arm. He knew the crossface was up next and he realised it way quicker than others. My god, chin lock number 4. Benoit's trying to break the record tonight, it seems. This time Booker gets out and he performs an enziguri followed by his signature spinebuster. Booker then performs a flopjack, but Benoit counters a hangover attempt with a big old superplex that makes the crowd go crazy. Benoit performs his German suplexes. He only manages to perform 2, but he fights off Booker's counter attempt and he finishes the trifecta with a dragon suplex. The crowd rise to their feet, but Booker kicks out at 2. The diving headbutt connects when Benoit pulls off his signature aerial attack, but just like match 2, Benoit's unable to cover his opponent immediately after the move. So Booker kicks out, he sends Benoit to the corner, he lands 2 Harlem side kicks, one to the back and one to the front, and the Best of 7 series ends with a missile dropkick from Booker T. Booker wins the whole series and he's gonna face Fit Finlay later on in the show. Excellent stuff. Tony Schiavone says we witnessed 8 of the finest matches in WCW history, and honestly, I'd agree. But as mentioned previously, make sure you check out their matches just before the series too. There's around 13 or 14 in total recorded for TV during 1998.